Don't you think you're too old to be riding a motorcycle?
The woman's sharp voice sliced through the quiet air like a knife. Every head in the crowd turned toward the old man, some with pity, others with scorn. No one there could have imagined that behind the frail figure of a thin black man standing beside a rusty motorcycle lay the beginning of a story filled with tragedy, pride, brotherhood, and truths buried for decades. It was a calm morning, the first light of day still laced with mist, when the roar of a 1970 Harley-Davidson thundered down the narrow street. Seated upright on the worn leather saddle was James Harris, an 82-year-old black man. His back was straight, his hands steady, as if time itself had never touched him. A lifetime of military discipline still ran through his veins. His eyes faced forward, unshaken, unwavering. But standing before him now were two young officers who had just stepped out of a patrol car, their expressions tinged with mockery. One of them, a young female officer named Ava Johnson, walked forward with mirrored sunglasses glinting in the sun. Her voice rang out firm and commanding. "Turn off the engine and step off the bike, sir." Her hand rested lightly on the pistol at her side, an act of caution, but also one of judgment. Her partner, David Lopez, chuckled as he eyed the Harley's faded paint. "That bike's older than my dad. You sure you can even get it moving, old man?" James Harris stayed calm. He slowly pulled a worn leather wallet from his pocket and handed over neatly folded documents, their edges yellowed with age. His driver's license read clearly, 82 years old. Johnson frowned. "Don't you think you're too old to be riding a motorcycle? It's dangerous for you and for everyone else." Her words landed cold, as if erasing the decades of discipline and courage Harris had carried from the battlefield. Any of this. To them, he was only a frail black man beside a rusty motorcycle, being interrogated by police. His silence deepened Johnson and Lopez's suspicions. Lopez leaned closer, whispering, "Maybe he can't hear us." "Look at him. He hasn't said a word." Johnson raised her voice. "Mr. Harris, can you hear me? Do you understand what I'm saying?" Each word carried a faint edge of insult, and the tension thickened. Across the street, at the familiar gas station, Marcus, the store's owner, paused mid-wipe on the pump handle. He looked over with wary eyes, wondering if those two officers realized they were standing in front of a man who, with one phone call, could summon dozens of veterans who had once served under him. Harris did not respond to the taunts. Instead, he drew in a deep breath, as though listening to echoes from long-gone battlefields, where honor, discipline, and sacrifice were never a joke. In that moment, the quiet town seemed to transform into a stage where truths about pride, prejudice, and military memory were about to surface. Among the bystanders was a 58-year-old Gulf War veteran who recognized James Harris instantly. For 15 years, Harris had stopped by that same gas station like clockwork, always polite, always paying on time, always leaving with a kind word. Marcus, the station owner, watched in disbelief as the man he respected was humiliated in public. Anger surged through him. He grabbed the phone and dialed directly to the nearest base, Fort Carson, Colorado. "Hello, this is Marcus Williams. I need to speak to the duty officer immediately. This is urgent." Meanwhile, the scene on the street grew more tense. Officer Johnson raised her voice now, her patience wearing thin at Harris's calm silence. "Sir, you'll need to come with us to the station." For the first time, Harris spoke. His voice was low, steady. Need to prove himself to anyone anymore. Meanwhile, Marcus continued speaking into the phone. "We have a veteran here being disrespected by local police, James Harris, 82 years old. I've known him for 15 years. An honest man, now humiliated in the middle of the street just for riding a motorcycle." On the other end, the officer's tone suddenly changed. "Did you just say James Harris?" "Hold the line." A few seconds later, the words came sharp and clear. "Mr. Williams, watch the situation closely. We are sending a unit immediately. Do not let them touch Colonel Harris until we arrive." "Colonel, I can't say more over the phone, but give us 15 minutes. Marcus froze. Colonel? In all the years he had known James, the man had never once mentioned his rank. Across the street, the scene grew even more absurd. Johnson decided Harris needed a psychiatric evaluation. "Mr. Harris, I'm ordering you into the car. We're going to the hospital for an exam." Harris shook his head. "I'm not going." Johnson stiffened. "This isn't a request, it's an order." Harris asked quietly, "Under what law?" The question cut through the air like a blade. Johnson hesitated. There was no law that allowed an old man to be detained simply for riding an old motorcycle. No statute that forced a mental evaluation without cause. But she had already gone too far. The crowd was filming, every eye fixed on her. Backing down now meant admitting she was wrong. Johnson's voice hardened. "Elderly protection laws. Endangering yourself is grounds enough." Harris let out a thin laugh, a sound laced with meaning, like the laugh he once gave when hearing polished lies from enemies far more dangerous than this. "Officer Johnson," he said slowly, "tell me, how many years have you served?" The question rattled. Was Captain George Farrell, 55 years old, with 22 years of service. He stopped a few feet away, raised his hand in salute and said, "Colonel Harris." The word colonel exploded through the street like a grenade. The crowd gasped. Johnson and Lopez exchanged pale looks. Farrell turned, his eyes cold as he faced the two young officers. "Who gave you permission to stop Colonel Harris's vehicle?" Johnson stammered. "We were just doing our job. This man." But Farrell cut her off, his voice carrying the weight of command. "This man served 3 tours in Vietnam, conducted intelligence operations in the Gulf and Afghanistan, and personally trained hundreds of officers, including me. He wears 2 bronze stars, 2 Purple Hearts with 4 oak leaf clusters, and the Distinguished Service Cross. He is a living legend of the United States Army." At once, the 50 soldiers stepped forward in unison, an instinctive movement to protect their commander. The atmosphere shifted. The townspeople, still recording, fell silent. The whispers that had once mocked an old black man turned into reverent murmurs. Voices rose from the crowd. "My God, he's a hero. The police have gone way too far." Johnson's throat tightened. She stepped closer to Harris, her voice breaking. "Colonel, I'm sorry. I didn't know." Harris looked at her, his voice calm and steady. "Officer Johnson, remember this. Never judge a man by appearances. You never know what battles he's fought, or what scars he carries inside." Those words of wisdom echoed not only for Johnson, but for everyone present. Farrell turned and asked, "Colonel, do you need an escort?" Harris shook his head slightly. No need, but thank you. I know there are always men like you standing behind me. The department was called in. Sheriff Smith opened the meeting. From today, we have a new protocol for traffic stops. All of you will undergo training at the military base. From the middle of the room, Ava Johnson stood, her voice trembling. Last week, I made a serious mistake. I failed to respect a man who deserved the deepest admiration. But the most valuable lesson I learned wasn't just about rules. It was about human dignity. Every person we meet on the road carries a story. Silence filled the room. Her confession became more than a lesson for police or soldiers. It was a reminder for everyone. Respect, listen, and understand. Because sometimes the greatest heroes wear the most ordinary faces. This story isn't just about a street encounter. It is a reminder of how we treat people, especially the elderly, with basic respect. Ask before assuming. Listen before judging. Days after the incident, Officer Ava Johnson drove down Highway 340, her heart pounding, still heavy with guilt. Ahead of her, Harris's small farm came into view, simple but well kept. A white wooden house, a porch with a rocking chair, a garden blooming with bright flowers, and a John Deere tractor parked near the barn. Harris was lying under the tractor in grease-stained coveralls, his practiced hands working on the hydraulic system. In the shade of a large tree nearby, the familiar 1970 Harley rested quietly. Johnson pulled over, took a deep breath, and walked toward him. "Colonel Harris?" He slid out from under the tractor, wiped his hands with an old rag, his eyes still gentle. "Officer Johnson, what can I do for you?" She lowered her head. "Sir, I came to talk, if you'll allow me." Harris smiled. "Want some coffee? Just made a fresh pot." Inside the modest kitchen, he poured coffee into 2 chipped blue ceramic mugs and sat down at the old wooden table, motioning for Johnson to sit across from him. "Officer, may I ask you a few things?" Motorcycle longer than she had been alive. It still growled, still rusty and worn, but it carried him anywhere he wanted to go. That machine still had roads ahead, and so did Colonel Harris. And so do we. All of us still have roads we haven't yet traveled. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next story, where everyday moments become powerful lessons about dignity, resilience, and respect.